The bitter taste of overpriced coffee matched my mood perfectly as I sat in the corner booth of Grind and Shine, watching Seattle's morning rush through rain-streaked windows. My wife Jennifer had another networking event last night, which apparently ran until 2 in the morning. At 42, I'd learned that marketing executives have remarkably active social calendars. "Excuse me, are you Jack Thompson?" I looked up from my laptop to see a stunning woman with auburn hair and emerald eyes. She wore a tailored black coat that probably cost more than my monthly car payment, and her expression carried the kind of controlled fury I'd only seen in courtroom dramas. "Depends who's asking," I replied, closing my laptop. After 15 years in IT consulting, I'd developed a healthy skepticism about unexpected approaches. She slid into the seat across from me without invitation. "I'm Claire Martinez. Your wife is sleeping with my husband." The words hit me like a physical blow, but I kept my expression neutral. Years of dealing with corporate disasters had taught me to process shocking information without immediate reaction. "That's quite an accusation," I said, taking another sip of coffee. "Got any proof, or are we just sharing wild theories?" Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Claire reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. 3 weeks of surveillance photos, credit card receipts, and hotel records. Your Jennifer and my David have been very busy. She spread the photos across the table like a poker hand. There was Jennifer, unmistakably, entering the Fairmont Olympic Hotel with a tall, dark-haired man in an expensive suit. Another photo showed them at Canlis, sharing dessert and looking intimate. The timestamps showed these were taken during her supposed client dinners. "David Martinez," Claire continued, her voice steady but her knuckles white as she gripped her coffee cup. 45, owns 3 software companies, thinks his charm and money make him irresistible. Apparently, your wife agrees. I studied the photos, feeling something cold settle in my stomach. "How long have you known?" "I suspected for a month. Confirmed it 2 weeks ago when I hired a private investigator. David's been sloppy, charging romantic dinners to his business account, using our joint credit card for hotel rooms." She laughed bitterly. "He even bought her jewelry, a tennis bracelet from Tiffany's. I found the receipt in his jacket pocket." "And you're telling me because?" "Because I'm tired of being the only one who knows the truth. Because they're planning something bigger." Claire leaned forward. "I bugged David's phone. They're not just having an affair, they're planning to leave us both. But not before they've secured their financial futures." She pulled out her smartphone and pressed play on an audio file. Jennifer's voice filled the space between us, clear and unmistakable. "Jack's so clueless, David. He actually believes I'm working late every night. The man hasn't questioned a single expense report in months. When we're ready to make our move, we'll have everything we need." David's voice responded. "Claire's the same way, trusting to a fault. By the time they figure out what's happening, we'll be in the Caymans with enough money to start fresh." I felt my jaw clench involuntarily. "When was this recorded?" "Last night, after your wife's networking event." The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. Jennifer's sudden interest in working late, her new wardrobe, the way she'd been guarding her phone like state secrets, the expensive dinners she claimed were client meetings, the weekend conferences that seemed to multiply every month. "What exactly are you proposing?" I asked. Claire's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. "I'm proposing we give them exactly what they deserve, but we do it smart and we do it completely. No half measures, no mercy, and no escape routes." She pulled out a tablet and showed me a detailed spreadsheet. "David's been embezzling from his own companies to fund this affair. Fake consulting fees, inflated expense reports, phantom employee bonuses that go straight to offshore accounts. If this information reached the right people, his business partners would crucify him," I finished. "Exactly. And your wife's involvement in helping him launder money through her marketing firm makes her an accessory. I've documented everything. I leaned back in my chair, mind racing. The smart play would be to walk away, file for divorce quietly, and move on with my life. But the recording of Jennifer's voice, so casual in her betrayal, so confident in my stupidity, had ignited something darker. What did you have in mind? Claire's eyes gleamed. Total destruction, financial ruin, social humiliation, and professional annihilation. By the time we're finished, they'll wish they'd never met each other. That sounds like a lot of work for revenge. Oh, Jack, she said, gathering up the photos, this isn't revenge. Revenge is emotional, sloppy, and temporary. This is justice, cold, calculated, and permanent. She stood to leave, then paused. Meet me tomorrow night at the Walrus and the Carpenter, 7 o'clock. Come prepared to discuss terms. As she walked away, I opened my laptop and stared at the screen without seeing it. Jennifer would be home soon, probably with another story about difficult clients and demanding deadlines. She'd kiss my cheek, ask about my day, and play the devoted wife while planning my financial destruction. I pulled out my phone and called my oldest friend, Sam Rodriguez, a criminal defense attorney with a flexible relationship with conventional morality. Sam, it's Jack. I need a lawyer, but not for what you're thinking. I need someone who knows how to destroy people legally. Jesus, Jack, what happened? My wife is cheating on me with a guy who's been embezzling money. They're planning to clean out our accounts and disappear to the Caribbean. There was a long pause. How much evidence do you have? Enough to bury them both. But I want to do this right. No mistakes, no loose ends, and no possibility of them recovering. Meet me at my office in an hour, and Jack, don't do anything stupid until we talk. I hung up and finished my coffee, watching the Seattle rain wash down the windows. Jennifer thought she was so clever, so sophisticated in her deception. She had no idea that her boring, predictable husband was about to become her worst nightmare. My phone buzzed with a text from her. Working late again tonight, don't wait up, love you. I typed back, love you too, have fun at work. If she wanted to play games, I was more than ready to play, but we'd be playing by my rules now. The next 24 hours passed in a surreal haze of normalcy. Jennifer made breakfast, chatted about her upcoming presentation, and kissed me goodbye like she had for the past 12 years. I went through the motions of my regular routine while my mind churned with plans for her destruction. Sam's law office occupied the 15th floor of a downtown high-rise, all glass and steel with a view of Elliott Bay. He'd done well for himself since law school, specializing in white-collar defense and corporate litigation. His secretary, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia, led me to his corner office. Jack, you look like hell, Sam said, rising from behind his mahogany desk. At 44, he'd kept most of his hair and added just enough gray at the temples to look distinguished. Tell me everything. I laid out the photos, played the audio recording, and showed him Claire's financial documentation. Sam listened without interruption, occasionally making notes on a legal pad. This is comprehensive, he said finally. Your wife and this David character have been remarkably thorough in documenting their own crimes. The money laundering alone could result in federal charges. I don't want them in prison, I said. I want them ruined, but free to suffer through it. Sam raised an eyebrow. That's surprisingly vindictive of you. You didn't hear the recording of my wife calling me clueless, or see her laughing while she planned to steal everything I've worked for. Fair enough. What's your timeline? Claire wants to meet tonight to discuss strategy. I need to know what's legally possible and what crosses the line. Sam opened his laptop and began typing. Financial exposure first. Joint accounts, shared assets, retirement funds. We need to protect everything before they can access it. I can file preliminary paperwork today that freezes major transactions pending a forensic audit. Won't that tip them off? Not if we're subtle. A routine audit request from your accountant, some questions about expense categories from your bank. Nothing that screams, I know you're cheating. He pulled up another document. The embezzlement evidence is solid. David Martinez's business partners would be very interested to know their money is funding his extramarital activities. A few anonymous tips to the right people. How anonymous? Completely untraceable. I have contacts at the SEC who love this kind of case. White-collar crime with a personal angle makes for great publicity. I felt a grim satisfaction settling in my chest. What about Jennifer's involvement? Marketing firms that help clients launder money face serious regulatory consequences. Her professional reputation would be destroyed even if criminal charges don't stick. Sam leaned back in his chair. But Jack, once we start this process, there's no going back. Your marriage is over, obviously, but this goes beyond divorce. You're talking about destroying two people's entire lives. They made that choice when they decided to destroy mine. All right then. Let's talk about Claire Martinez. What do you know about her? I realized I knew almost nothing beyond our coffee shop encounter. She seems intelligent, organized, and very angry. Be careful. Angry people make mistakes, and mistakes leave evidence trails. If this goes sideways, you don't want to be caught up in something illegal. What are you suggesting? Background check for starters. Let's make sure she's who she claims to be, and that her evidence is legitimate. The last thing you need is to base your revenge on fabricated information. Sam made another note. I'll have my investigator run a full workup on all parties. David Martinez, Claire Martinez, and yes, your wife. We need to know everything before we make our move. That evening, I arrived at the Walrus and the Carpenter 15 minutes early and claimed a corner table with a view of the entrance. The restaurant was busy but not packed, with enough ambient noise to mask conversation. Claire arrived precisely at 7, wearing a burgundy dress that managed to be both elegant and subtly provocative. She'd done something different with her makeup that emphasized her eyes and made her look dangerous. You came, she said, sliding into the seat across from me. I'm a man of my word. The question is whether you are. She smiled and signaled the waiter. Champagne. We're celebrating. Celebrating what? The beginning of the end for our cheating spouses. After the waiter left, Claire pulled out a tablet and opened a presentation that looked like a military briefing. Phase 1. Financial isolation. We freeze their access to marital assets and document every questionable transaction. Your friend the lawyer is already working on this, I assume? I nodded. How did you know about Sam? I told you I'm thorough. Samuel Rodriguez, graduated Harvard Law, specializes in white-collar defense, has a reputation for creative legal solutions. Good choice. The casual way she'd investigated my life should have been alarming, but instead I found it reassuring. If we were going to destroy our spouses, I wanted a partner who was as ruthless as I was becoming. Phase 2, she continued. Social exposure. David and Jennifer think they're being discreet, but they've been sloppy. Hotel staff remember them, restaurant servers have seen them together, and David's been bragging to his golf buddies about his marketing consultant. She showed me a series of photos I hadn't seen before. Jennifer and David at various locations around Seattle, always looking intimate and comfortable. How long have you been following them? 3 weeks of active surveillance, but I've been suspicious for 2 months. David's behavior changed dramatically in March. New clothes, new cologne, mysterious phone calls, and suddenly he was working late every night. The champagne arrived, and Claire raised her glass. To justice. To justice, I agreed, though the word felt strange in my mouth. Phase 3 is the most important, she continued. Professional destruction. David's embezzlement will destroy his business relationships, but we need to ensure Jennifer faces consequences too. Her marketing firm has strict ethical guidelines about client relationships and financial transparency. You want to get her fired? I want to get her blacklisted. The marketing community in Seattle is smaller than you'd think. Once word spreads that she's been involved in money laundering and client fraud, no legitimate firm will touch her. I found myself admiring Claire's thoroughness. What's your timeline? 2 weeks. long enough to gather additional evidence and put all the pieces in place, but short enough that they can't complete whatever exit strategy they're planning. She leaned forward, and I caught a hint of expensive perfume. There's one more thing, Jack. This partnership requires absolute trust and complete commitment. Once we start, we don't stop until they're both completely destroyed. Are you prepared for that? The question hung in the air between us. 24 hours ago, I'd been a faithful husband with a boring but comfortable life. Now I was planning the systematic destruction of the woman I'd loved for 12 years. Yes, I said, and meant it. Claire smiled and pulled out a contract. Then let's make this official. The contract Claire presented was surprisingly comprehensive for something prepared in less than 24 hours. It outlined our respective responsibilities, established protocols for sharing information, and included confidentiality clauses that would make my lawyer proud. You've done this before, I observed, scanning the legal language. I've never caught a husband cheating before, if that's what you're asking. But I didn't build a successful consulting business by being unprepared. I'd forgotten to ask about her profession. What kind of consulting? Corporate security. I help companies identify internal threats and protect sensitive information. Catching cheating spouses requires the same skill set as catching embezzling employees. That explained her systematic approach and professional-grade surveillance equipment. What's your success rate? 100%. I don't take cases I can't win. After dinner, we walked to her car, a black BMW sedan with tinted windows and enough electronic equipment to stock a spy shop. She handed me an earpiece and a small recording device. Tomorrow, I want you to have a conversation with Jennifer about your finances. Ask casual questions about her work expenses, her client relationships, anything that might get her talking about David's company. Record everything. Won't she be suspicious? Not if you approach it right. Tell her you're thinking about refinancing the house, or maybe taking out a loan for home improvements. Make it sound like you need to understand your complete financial picture. She was right. Jennifer had always handled most of our financial planning, and I'd been content to let her manage the details. A conversation about major purchases would seem natural. What will you be doing? Following David to his office. I want to document his daily routine, see who he talks to, understand his business relationships. The more we know about his professional life, the more effectively we can destroy it. I pocketed the recording device. Claire, can I ask you something personal? Depends how personal. Why aren't you more upset about this? You're angry, obviously, but you're also remarkably calm and focused. Most people would be falling apart. She was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the Seattle skyline. David and I have been married for 8 years. No children, separate careers, separate social circles. Somewhere along the way, we became roommates instead of spouses. That doesn't excuse cheating. No, it doesn't. But it explains why I'm not heartbroken. I'm furious that he lied to me, and I'm livid that he's been stealing money to fund his affair, but I'm not devastated by the loss of our relationship. She turned to face me. What about you and Jennifer? The question caught me off guard. I thought we were happy, not passionate maybe, but comfortable, compatible. I trusted her completely. And now? Now I feel like an idiot for not seeing the signs, and I'm angry that she thinks I'm too stupid to figure out what she's doing. Good. Anger is useful. Heartbreak makes you sloppy, but anger makes you focused. The next morning, I waited until Jennifer finished her shower before broaching the subject of our finances. She was getting dressed for work, selecting a new outfit I didn't recognize, a tailored suit that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Jen, I've been thinking about refinancing the house, I said, trying to sound casual. Interest rates are still pretty low, and we could probably free up some cash for that kitchen renovation you mentioned. She paused in the middle of applying lipstick. Refinancing? Why now? The mortgage broker said we should strike while rates are favorable, but he needs complete financial disclosure, income, expenses, assets, debts, the whole picture. I can handle that, she said quickly. You don't need to worry about the paperwork. I know, but I should probably understand our finances better. I realized yesterday that I don't even know how much you're making now with all your new clients. Jennifer's reflection in the mirror showed a brief flash of something, panic, guilt, before she smiled. Business has been really good. David Martinez's company has been especially lucrative. The recording device in my pocket was capturing every word. David Martinez? He owns several software companies, very successful, very demanding. He's been requiring a lot of personal attention to keep the account happy. I'll bet he has, I thought. What kind of marketing work does he need? Rebranding, mostly. He's expanding into new markets and wants a completely fresh image. It requires a lot of evening meetings and weekend strategy sessions. Sounds intensive. It is, but the money is incredible. He's paying almost double our usual rates because he wants exclusive access to our team. Exclusive access. The phrase made my stomach turn. Will this continue long-term? Probably another few months. Maybe longer if the expansion goes well. She finished her makeup and kissed my cheek. I should go. David's flying in from Portland this morning, and we have a full day of meetings scheduled. After she left, I called Sam and played him the recording. She's good, he said, after listening twice. Everything she said is technically true, but it's designed to mislead you about the nature of her relationship with Martinez. Can we use this? Absolutely. It establishes a pattern of deception and shows she's been lying about her work activities. Combined with Claire's evidence, it paints a clear picture of fraud and adultery. What's the next step? I'm meeting with my investigator this afternoon. We should have complete background reports on everyone involved by tomorrow. In the meantime, keep recording conversations and document anything unusual about Jennifer's behavior. That evening, I followed Claire's BMW to a parking garage across from David Martinez's office building. She was already set up with a telephoto lens and digital camera, tracking movements in and out of the building. Any interesting developments? I asked, sliding into the passenger seat. David had lunch with his business partners at the Metropolitan Grill. Very tense conversation, lots of heated gesturing and document reviewing. I think someone's asking uncomfortable questions about the company finances. She showed me photos on her camera's display screen. David looked stressed and defensive, while two other men appeared angry and confrontational. I also followed him to Nordstrom after lunch. He spent 40 minutes in the jewelry department and left with a small bag. More gifts for Jennifer? Probably. He's been escalating the expensive presents over the past month. Either he's getting more serious about the relationship, or he's trying to keep her happy while he sorts out his business problems. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the office building. It felt strange to be sharing this intimate surveillance with someone I'd known for less than 48 hours, but Claire's presence was oddly reassuring. Jack, can I ask you something? Sure. When this is over, what do you want your life to look like? The question surprised me. I'd been so focused on destroying Jennifer and David that I hadn't thought much about what came after. I honestly don't know. Divorced, obviously. Probably sell the house, start over somewhere else. Any regrets about the marriage ending? I considered the question seriously. I regret that Jennifer chose to betray me instead of talking to me if she was unhappy. I regret that I was too comfortable to notice we were growing apart. But I don't regret that it's ending. Not anymore. Good. Regret makes you hesitate when you need to be decisive. At 8:30, David emerged from the building and walked to his car, a silver Porsche that screamed midlife crisis. Claire started her engine and followed at a discreet distance. Where do you think he's going? I asked. Probably to meet Jennifer. They usually get together around 9 on weeknights. She was right. David drove to the W Hotel and parked in the valet area. 10 minutes later, Jennifer's car pulled up behind him. I watched my wife of 12 years step out of her Honda and walk confidently into the hotel lobby, where David was waiting with flowers and what looked like a jewelry box. Got it, Claire said, snapping photos of their reunion. That should be enough evidence for tonight. As we drove back to the parking garage, I felt something cold and final settle in my chest. There was no ambiguity anymore, no possibility that I'd misunderstood the situation. Jennifer was cheating on me with systematic precision, and she was enjoying every minute of it. "Claire," I said as she pulled up next to my car, "I want to accelerate our timeline." "What do you mean?" "I mean, I don't want to wait 2 weeks. I want to destroy them as quickly and completely as possible." She studied my face in the dim light of the parking garage. "Are you sure?" "Once we pull the trigger, there's no going back." "I'm sure." "Then we move tomorrow." Sam's investigator delivered his reports the next morning, and the information was even more damaging than I'd hoped. David Martinez wasn't just embezzling from his companies. He was running a sophisticated fraud scheme that involved fake contracts, phantom employees, and offshore shell companies. "He's stolen at least $2 million over the past 18 months, Sam explained, spreading financial documents across his conference table. "And your wife's marketing firm has been instrumental in laundering the money." The evidence was overwhelming. Jennifer had created fake consulting contracts that allowed David to move money between accounts, established phantom employee records that generated fraudulent paychecks, and even helped him create a shell company in the Cayman Islands. "She's not just cheating on you," Sam continued. "She's been actively participating in financial crimes that could result in federal prison time." I stared at the documents, feeling a mixture of rage and satisfaction. "How do we use this?" "Carefully. We can't just dump this information publicly without exposing ourselves to potential legal liability. But we can make sure it reaches the right people through appropriate channels." Claire arrived at noon with her own intelligence reports. She'd been busy overnight, using her corporate security contacts to dig deeper into David's business relationships. "His partners are already suspicious," she announced, settling into a chair across from Sam's desk. "They've noticed discrepancies in the quarterly reports and hired their own forensic accountant to review the books." "Timeline?" Sam asked. "They're planning a confrontation for Friday morning. If we move before then, we can control the narrative and ensure maximum damage." I looked between them. "What exactly are you proposing?" Claire opened her laptop and displayed a detailed schedule. "Tomorrow is Thursday. Jennifer thinks she's meeting David for another romantic evening, but instead they're going to walk into a carefully orchestrated trap." "Explain." "We leak selected evidence to David's business partners tonight, ensuring they confront him first thing Thursday morning. While he's dealing with that crisis, we simultaneously notify Jennifer's boss about her involvement in the money laundering scheme." Sam nodded approvingly. "By Thursday afternoon, they'll both be facing professional disasters. That's when we hit them with the divorce papers and asset freezing orders." "And the personal humiliation?" I asked. Claire smiled. "That's the beautiful part. In their panic over the professional consequences, they'll try to support each other. We'll be there to document their desperation and make sure everyone in their social and professional circles knows exactly what they've done." The plan was elegant in its simplicity and devastating in its scope. By Friday morning, Jennifer and David would have lost their jobs, their reputations, their financial security, and any possibility of a future together. "I have one condition," I said. "I want to be there when Jennifer realizes what's happening. I want to see her face when she understands that her boring, clueless husband has destroyed her entire life." "That can be arranged," Claire said, "but you need to be prepared for her reaction. She's going to try to manipulate you, probably claim she was going to end the affair, maybe even blame David for seducing her." "I can handle it." "Can you?" "Because the Jennifer who's been lying to you for months is going to seem very different from the woman you married. She's going to say things designed to hurt you, and she's going to be vicious about it." I thought about the recording of Jennifer calling me clueless, about the casual way she'd planned my financial destruction, about the confident smile on her face as she walked into the hotel with David. She already hurt me as much as possible. Now it's my turn. That evening, Claire and I sat in her BMW outside the W Hotel, waiting for Jennifer and David to arrive for what they thought would be another romantic rendezvous. Instead, it would be the last night of their old lives. "Second thoughts?" Claire asked, checking her camera equipment. "None." "Good, because in about 12 hours we're going to destroy two people's entire existence. I want to make sure you're committed to seeing this through to the end." At 9:15, David's Porsche pulled up to the valet stand. He looked more stressed than usual, checking his phone constantly and glancing around nervously. The leaked information about his embezzlement had apparently reached his business partners. Jennifer arrived 10 minutes later, and even from a distance I could see she was agitated. Her usual confident demeanor had been replaced by something approaching panic. "They know something's wrong," Claire observed, snapping photos as they embraced in the hotel lobby. "Look at their body language. That's not passion. That's desperation." She was right. Instead of their usual relaxed intimacy, Jennifer and David looked like co-conspirators planning their next move. They spoke in urgent whispers, frequently checking their phones, and kept glancing around as if they expected to be watched. "Perfect," Claire said. "Scared people make stupid decisions, and stupid decisions leave evidence trails." We followed them to the hotel bar where they claimed a corner table and immediately launched into what appeared to be an intense strategy session. Claire had positioned a listening device near their usual table earlier in the day, and now we could hear every word through her surveillance equipment. "The partners know about the missing money," David was saying, his voice tight with stress. "They've hired forensic accountants and frozen my access to the company accounts." "How much do they know?" Jennifer asked. "Enough to destroy me if they involve law enforcement. We need to accelerate our timeline and get out of Seattle before this gets worse." "What about the Cayman accounts? Can we access those?" "Not easily. The shell company requires both our signatures for major withdrawals, and if we're under investigation, any large transfers will trigger federal scrutiny." Jennifer was quiet for a moment. "What if we throw someone else under the bus? Make it look like the embezzlement was an employee fraud scheme that we helped uncover." "Who would we blame?" "I don't know. Someone expendable, someone without the resources to fight back effectively." Listening to my wife casually discuss framing an innocent person for crimes she'd helped commit was the final nail in the coffin of any residual sympathy I might have felt. She wasn't just a cheater or even just a criminal, she was genuinely evil. "Got all that?" Claire asked, ejecting a memory card from her recording device. "Every word." "Then tomorrow should be very interesting." As we prepared to leave, I watched Jennifer and David through the bar windows. They looked desperate and frightened, but they were still plotting to escape consequences and destroy other people in the process. "Claire," I said as we walked to the parking garage, "I want them to suffer, not just professionally or financially, but personally. I want them to experience the same helplessness and betrayal they put us through." "They will," she promised. "By the time we're finished, they'll wish they'd never met each other." The next morning, I called in sick to work and positioned myself in a coffee shop across from Jennifer's office building. Claire was doing the same outside David's company, and Sam was standing by with legal documents that would freeze their assets and initiate divorce proceedings. At exactly 9 o'clock, Claire sent a text. "David just got called into an emergency meeting with his partners. He looks terrified." 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed with another message. Jennifer's boss just asked her to come to his office immediately. She's carrying a box of files and looks like she's going to throw up. The trap was closing, and there was nowhere for them to run. By 10:30 Thursday morning, both Jennifer and David were facing the complete collapse of their professional lives. Claire's surveillance reports painted a picture of two people in absolute panic, scrambling to control a situation that had already spiraled beyond their ability to manage. David had been terminated from all three of his companies and escorted from the building by security. His business partners had discovered not only the embezzlement but also the offshore accounts and shell companies, Federal investigators were already reviewing the case for potential criminal charges. Jennifer's situation was equally devastating. Her boss had received an anonymous tip about her involvement in money laundering, complete with documentation of the fake contracts and phantom employees. She'd been suspended pending a full investigation, and the marketing firm's legal team was preparing to terminate her employment and pursue civil recovery of any stolen funds. "They're both radioactive now," Sam reported from his office. "Word is spreading through the professional community faster than we could have hoped. David's name is being mentioned in connection with federal fraud investigations, and Jennifer's reputation in the marketing world is completely destroyed." I felt a grim satisfaction settling in my chest. What's next? Now we serve them with divorce papers and asset freezing orders. I've prepared documents that will prevent them from accessing joint accounts, selling shared property, or transferring any assets out of state. Claire called from her surveillance position outside David's apartment building. He just arrived home looking completely defeated. Jennifer's car is already in the parking garage. They're probably planning their next move. "Perfect," I said. "Time for the personal confrontation." I'd been dreading and anticipating this moment in equal measure. For 12 years, Jennifer had been the most important person in my life. In a few minutes, I was going to look her in the eye and watch her realize that her boring, trusting husband had systematically destroyed everything she cared about. David's apartment was in a converted warehouse in South Lake Union, all exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows, the kind of place that screamed successful entrepreneur and cost more per month than most people's annual salary. I took the elevator to the 15th floor and knocked on David's door. Jennifer answered, and the look of shock on her face was everything I'd hoped for. "Jack? What are you doing here?" She was still wearing the expensive suit from this morning, but her perfect composure had cracked. Her makeup was smudged, her hair was disheveled, and her hands were shaking slightly. "I came to see how your business meeting went," I said, pushing past her into the apartment. David was sitting on a leather couch, staring at his laptop screen with the expression of a man watching his entire life collapse in real time. He looked up when I entered, and I saw fear flash across his face. "Jennifer, who is this?" "David Martinez," I said, extending my hand with mock politeness. "I'm Jack Thompson, Jennifer's husband. I believe you two know each other quite well." The silence that followed was deafening. Jennifer and David exchanged glances that confirmed everything I'd suspected about their relationship and their crimes. "Jack, I can explain," Jennifer began, but I held up my hand to stop her. "Actually, you can't, because I know everything. The affair, the embezzlement, the money laundering, the offshore accounts, the plan to frame innocent employees for your crimes. I know all of it." I pulled out my phone and played the recording from the hotel bar. Jennifer's voice filled the apartment, casually discussing how to destroy other people to save herself. "You've been listening to us," David said, finally finding his voice. "For weeks. Did you really think you were being subtle? Hotel receipts on joint credit cards, romantic dinners charged to business accounts, jewelry purchases that show up on expense reports?" Jennifer sank into a chair, her face pale. "How did you find out?" Claire Martinez introduced herself. "Lovely woman, very thorough. She's been documenting your activities for quite some time." David's expression shifted from fear to rage. "Claire did this? That vindictive witch set us up?" "No, David, you set yourselves up. Claire and I just made sure there were consequences." I pulled out the legal documents Sam had prepared. "Jennifer, you're being served with divorce papers. All our joint assets have been frozen pending a complete forensic audit. You'll also be receiving a visit from federal investigators regarding your involvement in David's embezzlement scheme." Her hands shook as she took the papers. "Jack, please, we can work this out. I made mistakes, but I never meant to hurt you. You called me clueless. You planned to steal everything I'd worked for and disappear to the Caribbean. You were going to frame innocent people for crimes you committed. Exactly which part of that wasn't meant to hurt me?" David stood up, trying to project confidence he clearly didn't feel. Look, Thompson, I know this situation is complicated, but there's no reason we can't handle this like adults. Jennifer and I have developed feelings for each other, but that doesn't mean— Shut up, I interrupted. You're a thief and a fraud who's been using my wife to launder stolen money. In about 6 hours, your name is going to be all over the local news in connection with federal crimes. By tomorrow morning, everyone in Seattle's business community will know exactly what you are. I turned back to Jennifer. And you're going to be right there beside him. The marketing firm is terminating your employment and pursuing civil recovery of stolen funds. Your professional reputation is destroyed, your personal assets are frozen, and your criminal liability is substantial. Jennifer started crying, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of self-pity and rage. You bastard. You vindictive, petty bastard. Do you have any idea what you've done to me? I've given you exactly what you deserve, nothing more, nothing less. David moved toward me aggressively, but I stood my ground. You think you're so smart, don't you? Well, congratulations, you've destroyed your own marriage and ruined 2 people's lives out of spite. I've exposed 2 criminals and protected myself from theft and fraud. If your lives are ruined, it's because of choices you made, not actions I took. Jennifer wiped her eyes, and I saw something cold and calculating replace the tears. Jack, you don't understand what you're dealing with. David has connections, resources, ways of making problems disappear. If you think you can just destroy us and walk away clean, you're more naive than I thought. Is that a threat? It's a reality check. You're a small-time IT consultant going up against people with serious money and serious connections. This isn't over just because you served some papers. I smiled, and apparently something in my expression made both of them take a step back. You're right, Jennifer. This isn't over. Because tomorrow morning, every detail of your affair and your crimes is going to be public knowledge. Your friends, your family, your professional colleagues. Everyone is going to know exactly what you've done. I pulled out another set of documents. David, you're also being served. Claire is divorcing you and seeking full recovery of marital assets. She's also providing evidence of your embezzlement to federal prosecutors and the IRS. David grabbed the papers, his face flushing with anger. Claire can't touch me. I've got lawyers, accountants, people who know how to protect assets. Had, I corrected. You had those things. As of this morning, you're unemployed, under federal investigation, and facing potential criminal charges. Your high-powered legal team isn't going to work for free, and your assets are being frozen even as we speak. The apartment fell silent, except for the sound of Jennifer sobbing and David pacing like a caged animal. I felt a profound sense of satisfaction watching them realize that their carefully planned future had been completely destroyed. One more thing, I said, heading toward the door. Claire and I will be holding a press conference tomorrow morning to discuss our discoveries about corporate fraud in Seattle's tech industry. We'll be providing detailed evidence to support our claims, including audio recordings and financial documents. Jennifer looked up from her tears. You can't do that. Some of that information is privileged. Actually, we can. Our lawyers have reviewed everything carefully. All the evidence was obtained legally, and exposing criminal activity is a matter of public interest. I paused at the door and looked back at them one final time. You know what the really beautiful part is? You did this to yourselves. Every crime, every lie, every betrayal, those were your choices. I just made sure there were consequences. As I walked toward the elevator, I could hear them starting to argue with each other, their voices rising in panic and recrimination. The sound was music to my ears. Claire was waiting in the lobby, having watched the entire confrontation through building security cameras. How do you feel? She asked. Like I just took out 12 years of garbage, I replied. Good, because tomorrow we finish this completely. The next morning, Claire and I stood before a room full of reporters and television cameras, flanked by Sam and a team of lawyers. The press conference had been carefully choreographed to maximize damage to Jennifer and David while protecting us from potential legal retaliation. "Ladies and gentlemen," Sam began, "we're here today to expose a sophisticated fraud scheme that has stolen millions of dollars from Seattle area businesses and involved multiple individuals in criminal conspiracy." For the next hour, we methodically laid out the evidence of David's embezzlement and Jennifer's involvement in money laundering. We provided financial documents, audio recordings, and photographic evidence that painted a complete picture of their crimes. The reporters asked detailed questions, and Claire answered with the precision of a corporate security expert. She explained how the fraud had been discovered, how the money laundering scheme had operated, and what steps were being taken to recover stolen funds. "What about the personal relationship between the defendants?" one reporter asked. "Mr. Martinez and Mrs. Thompson were engaged in an extramarital affair," Claire replied calmly. "They used their personal relationship to facilitate the criminal conspiracy and planned to flee the country with stolen money." I watched the press conference from the side of the room, feeling a deep sense of closure. Jennifer and David had thought they were so clever, so sophisticated in their deception. Now their crimes and their affair were being broadcast on every local news station and reported in every major newspaper. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You've destroyed my entire life. I hope you're satisfied." I typed back, "Completely." Another message appeared. "This isn't over, Jack. I'll find a way to make you pay for this." I showed the message to Sam, who immediately forwarded it to his contacts in law enforcement. "Threatening communication from someone already under federal investigation," he said. "That's not going to help her case." As the press conference ended and reporters dispersed to file their stories, Claire and I walked out of the building together. The Seattle morning was crisp and clear, and I felt lighter than I had in months. "Any regrets?" she asked. "None whatsoever." "Good, because by tonight Jennifer Thompson and David Martinez will be the most notorious criminals in Seattle. Their names will be permanently associated with fraud, theft, and betrayal." I looked back at the building where we'd just destroyed two people's lives with methodical precision. They earned every bit of what's coming to them. "Yes," Claire agreed. "They did." 6 months later, David Martinez was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison for embezzlement and money laundering. Jennifer received 4 years for her role in the conspiracy, though she was released after serving 18 months. Neither of them ever recovered their professional reputations or their stolen money. David's business empire collapsed completely, and Jennifer was permanently blacklisted from the marketing industry. Claire and I maintained our partnership long after the legal proceedings ended. We discovered that we worked well together, thought alike, and shared a similar appreciation for justice served cold and complete. Sometimes people ask me if I feel guilty about destroying my wife's life so thoroughly. The answer is simple. She destroyed her own life with her choices. I just made sure there were consequences, and I sleep very well at night.